everybody, and happy Sunday. Welcome back to my podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Future of Social Media, where we focus on the world of Instagram, its advantages, disadvantages, and how the future of brands can be shaped around it. My idea is to design and implement a platform that will provide all listeners with an opportunity to become better educated on how, in our daily lives, social media can control and influence our actions. Today we are talking about successful brands in the fashion industry and how they keep up with social media and its rapid changes. We are joined with co-founder of 437, Adrien Bettio. I hope you all had an amazing week. Let's get into it. How are you, Adrien?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here, so thank you for having me on.
I'm excited to have you here. So I want to start off with the focus of the conversation on how your incredible journey and how you got to becoming the successful co-founder and multimillionaire company. So I want to start off by asking you right from the start, before 437, did you know you were going to be an entrepreneur, or is this kind of a product of where you were kind of going and you saw a need? Where did it kind of all start?
Yeah, it all started more because Hyla and I, my co-founder, Hyla and I were vacationing when we were on exchange in Europe, and we were constantly struggling to find bikinis that were flattering for us. And we just felt like everything on the market was really marketed towards like really slender body types. And we didn't want to feel pressure, like we couldn't eat and enjoy all of the good food that was in Europe, which is where we were. So we really just started because of that. I don't think I ever saw myself as, going down an entrepreneurial route prior to that, but it just kind of evolved over time. It was a passion project to begin with, and then as it started kind of picking up steam, Hyla and I realized like this could actually be something.
So it all kind of fell into place. Yeah, I feel like when you were saying it's so hard to find like bathing suits that perfectly fit, because you can order so many and online from random places, and you find that one that you're like, okay, that's the company that I want to go back to, because it is like you want to be able to eat and stuff, and sometimes they hit you the wrong way, and once you find that perfect one, it kind of really does make a difference. So can you take us through kind of the journey of becoming the successful multimillionaire brand that you are within the fashion industry? And I know you kind of told us about how you kind of started, but how did it kind of evolve after that? Like you had that idea and you found that need. Where did you go from there?
So all of that happened when Hyla and I were going into our final year of university. We were at Queen's studying commerce. That's where we met. And basically after we had the idea, both of us were working summer internships. She was working in like a startup incubator, and I was working at like a fashion house in sales. And both of us were really unsatisfied with our day jobs, and we kind of had this idea in the back of our minds. So we ended up just doing it after work every single day. And then when we went into our fourth year and final year of school, we just kept going. So after like our classes, we would just meet up in the school and then continue to work on it. And like I said, eventually through posting on Instagram, we started gaining more followers, and then slowly started making a few sales. And I think we were just so excited by the prospect of being able to work on this company, which was so exciting to us that we just kind of kept pushing it, and eventually got to the point where we felt like, if we graduate and try and take this full time, we think it can become something.
Yep.
So when we graduated, it was actually like hardly making any money. We weren't paid for, the first 2 years of running the company, but I think that's just kind of part of the entrepreneurial journey. And
oh, for sure.
Yeah, it was funny because we were literally both living in our parents' houses. We had all the inventory in my parents' basement, and the few orders we would get, we would just ship out a couple times a week. And then that slowly built until we actually ended up moving into a condo with all of our inventory, and we're like sleeping in boxes on pull-out couches. It was just the craziest. It was the craziest situation, but that was kind of what like the journey looked like before we ended up finally getting an office and hiring.
I feel like because were you guys friends before you started, obviously, the company and everything? I think that's like everyone's goal, at least it's mine. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, because I've obviously been following you guys for such a long time. I have so many of your bathing suits, and I'm like, this is so cool that this is my dream. Like, I'm in fashion. I want to get a business going with my best friend. Like, it's just, it all fell into place for you, and that's kind of like idolizing for me, because I'm like, it could work for me too in the future if that's just the way the world takes me, but you're living proof. So yeah. So another question I have is, what are your techniques to keep up with the trends of social media and its rapid changes? So I know, of course, it went from Facebook to Instagram to now TikTok's a huge thing. How do you kind of keep up with all that and make sure that you hit all those audiences?
I think it's just like a constant challenge in learning. I think you have to be super open-minded and you have to be willing to pivot because, like you said, Facebook, probably when we first started, Facebook was like one of the biggest platforms. That's where we announced the company. And then, Instagram has taken over for the last few years and we're seeing TikTok become massive now, right? So I think the brands that are willing to look to the future and actually follow where people are and like I said, make those pivots are the ones that are going to stick around, because if you just kind of stick to what you know and stick to what's comfortable, you're going to miss the mark eventually and things are going to move on without you.
Yeah, because it is, when I say rapid changes, I mean rapid, like you obviously know, but it's crazy how fast things, like, what was it, 10 years ago? Instagram was like just becoming a thing, and then TikTok just evolved over the whole, well, at least I heard about it and I got my account when it was in the pandemic, so like a few years ago, and it's crazy, but it's crazy how well you've done with it, and you guys have clearly adapted and done a great job. So how do you deal with the no's? And of course, like starting, I'm sure you got a few doubts with your business, as does anyone that's starting a new business. How did you kind of deal with that and all the negativity around it?
I think kind of coming back to, what you mentioned before, it was just our dream to do this. And we were so excited by the possibility of making that a reality. So rather than focusing on the no's, we would just really try and surround ourselves with things that inspired us and kept that vision of what we wanted to create in mind. So one of the things that we did that was super helpful at the time was just following as many business founders as we possibly could. And I think seeing that it was possible, but from, other young people close in age to us, for them to be running their own businesses just gave us hope that if they can do it, why can't we do it? Maybe it's just a matter of like pushing and working harder and working smarter or whatever that is. So I think every time we got a no, we just would treat it as, okay, well, what is a possible solution to this no? And I think that's been a really big key for 437 success so far, because the amount of no's you get, it's every single day. There's issues every single day. So
and
you just need to be able to run with it.
And I feel like when I was thinking of these questions to ask you, I was like, okay, yes, there's no's, but sometimes when you have no's and doubts in yourself, it's because people, like, those no's there's a reason why people are being like, no, because maybe they want to do that, or they're kind of jealous of the idea or things like that. And those no's probably even pushed you guys further too, to become better and stuff. And when you said about you followed founders and stuff, what did you mean by that? Like just through Instagram and stuff, or did you reach out? Like, what was your kind of technique with that?
Just through Instagram. I think, maybe it doesn't sound that revolutionary now. Obviously, everyone probably follows so many people they're interested on social media. But like I said, at the time, Instagram, I think, wasn't what it is now. It was really just people having their own network, and influencers were just starting. There was hardly even a lot of brands on Instagram at that point when we first got on there. So the idea that we could not only see a brand, like a small brand that we thought was really cool, but also follow the founders, felt like such an exciting thing. So, yeah. I mean, now obviously people can, do that and also reach out in other ways if you want to connect with people. And there's things like LinkedIn that make it so easy, but yeah, I was just simply following and feeling like inspired by the journey, because you get to see more of that like behind the scenes stuff often when you follow the founders rather than just the business page.
Sure. And still, I think now too, like even following a brand, whereas following the brand plus the founders of it, like it is that like difference and more personable too, because you can see, yes, this is what they're probably doing every day, but they're also, if they're traveling or doing things from work too, it does show you that kind of behind the scenes. And if you're really interested in a brand, it is so nice to see what they're doing behind the scenes too, on top of obviously what they're producing and everything. So yeah. So who is included in your social media team and what are their kind of tasks? I know social media is so tedious. There's so many little parts in this game. Like, how do you, like, who's a part of your team and what's the most like important kind of parts of that?
That's a good question. I'd say the key role for us is like our social media manager, which is the person who kind of thinks about social media all the time. They're the ones who are in charge of curating content and posting and thinking of creative ideas for our socials. So that manager manages our Instagram and TikTok primarily, but then also things like Pinterest, which we use. And then alongside that person, we have an in-house, what we've branded as like a content creator, so that we can take in the moment content in response to trends that we're seeing on TikTok or questions that our customers are asking us on Instagram. Like if someone comes to us and says, oh, I don't understand how to tie this top, then we have this person in-house who's able to in that moment get the content, and we're able to respond and actually like meet what our customers are asking for. So I'd say those are the two kind of biggest people on the social media team.
In charge of the bigger tasks. Yeah. So, because it really is so tedious, like trends and stuff like that are happening every single day, and things are popping off, even sounds on TikTok of things you need to use. So there does need to be someone keeping track of that, because even for content creators or brands or whatever you're kind of trying to do, or if you want to grow a larger audience, you got to stay on top of that. And it is a full-time job. So do you feel it is important to stick to your brand's aesthetic and values in all of your media posts? I know you and the brand stand for curve-hugging designs and flaunting all body types. How do you make sure that like all of your designs and posts and social media and stuff kind of stands by that too? Do you think that's important, or what's your kind of take on it?
Yeah, I think it's important that your brand is cohesive in terms of if a customer comes across one social media post and then they go to the website and then they look somewhere else, like they're getting that same experience with your brand. I do think that in order not to stifle creativity or make content boring for your audience, it is kind of key to switch things up a lot and not just kind of always revert back to the same kind of posts. I think people do get bored, and there's always ways to like do little types of innovation, even if you're staying true to, key pillars of the business. So I think that's the way we've tried to navigate it, by just making sure everyone on our team is super clear about like what our main pillars are, but then being able to explore creatively as long as those things are being met.
For sure. I love that answer. So how do you use social media into your advantage? I know that sometimes social media, there's a lot of negatives to it, and there's so many positives in reaching larger audiences and all that. What kind of skills and stuff would you give the audience that is listening to use social media for their advantage, or any kind of tips and tricks that you've kind of caught on to along the way that you think have really been helpful to your brand?
That's a great question. And I think it's super tough, because I think social media can be like so positive, but also so negative, like you said. I think just like anything, you have to audit what you're seeing. And at one point, for you personally or for your brand, it might have been good to be, interacting with certain pages, and then over time that can change. And I think it's okay to just like, take stock of where you are. And if you're finding that certain things are not working, or certain things are causing stress, or certain things are, whatever, I think you can always make a change. So,
and reevaluate and maybe unfollow, or I totally agree.
Whatever you need to do. I think like in this age, people need to be so conscious of their mental health, and it's so tough with Instagram and TikTok and everything, and being on there all the time. So I think whatever people can do to like maintain some sort of peace for themselves is really key.
And it is so true about like who you follow and all those things. Like there are, I think Instagram has kind of caught on with, you even mentioned the whole mute thing. Like there's so many things, you can do if you don't want to see something, but you're not ready to unfollow them. Like you can always mute them. There's no harm in that. I don't even think they could tell. I'm like they can't even tell. So there's so many little ways, because that is a huge thing that everyone's kind of running into that problem too. So I know that sustainability and inclusivity is such a big thing in fashion right now and in the industry. Do you guys kind of have that in the back of your heads and are implementing that and think that's like a big deal and important to you guys for the 437 brand?
For sure. I think both of those things are really important to us. I think inclusivity for us is just like listening to customer feedback, making sure that as we continue to grow and have more resources, we're doing things like expanding our sizing range and building out more styles that cater to different body types and things that could be more challenging for, people to find in the swimwear industry. So for example, this summer we have a lot of different coverage options that are coming out, which is exciting for us because it's something that our customers have asked for. So we've been really working to do that, but in a way that still feels like on brand for 437. It feels very elevated and luxe. So that's just an example for the inclusivity of how we want to approach it. In terms of
sustainability.
Yeah, that's been really huge for us. I think 2022 was the year a lot of the things that we've been working on for the last couple of years are now rolling out because at least with the design process, it takes a really long time to figure all of that out.
Yeah. And more expensive and all those little.
It's super expensive. It's a lot of development. And obviously our customers are used to a certain type of fabric, a certain feel and experience with our brand. So we want to make sure that everything that we're bringing out that is sustainable still gives our customer that experience. So we've been developing a lot, and we came out with Active this year, and all of that is made of sustainable fabrics. And then in the summertime, we're actually going to be relaunching all of our classic staple bodies in sustainable fabric as well.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. I love how the fashion industry is kind of pushing for sustainability and inclusivity because we really do need it, right? Yeah. And you kind of touched on your athleisure line that you guys just put out. What kind of gave you that jump to, because I know you're of course with swimwear and you made that jump. What was that push and motivation that you guys had to create that line and go that way with the athleisure?
I think it's, like I said, we try to be a brand that really involves our community in a lot of our decisions. So we're constantly asking for feedback. We're constantly asking for people to tell us, what they want from us. And one of the things that we just got again and again was we want Active that gives the same experience that your swim gives. So that was really what pushed us to do it. I feel like it's been years of getting that feedback, and Hyla and I both really love activewear, and we both love working out, and we think it's just a natural extension for the brand to now have stuff in that space. So, and
it's perfect timing too, because I think everyone's kind of trying to get back into eating healthier, working out, doing those things, and perfect timing, because who doesn't want the best fitting, cutest workout set ever, right? So especially right now. And you also kind of touched on you're increasing your size range. I know that you've done so well with your brand and including all these different sizes and influencers or models that you work with and hitting all your platforms. How do you, and what's your kind of routine and process on finding people that you want to work with, whether it is for like your models or influencers and stuff like that? How do you guys go about that?
I think it really depends on the collection, but for the most part, we do have someone on our team who's our partnerships manager, and they're constantly looking on Instagram, on TikTok for people to send product to work with, to build relationships with. So I think a lot of our imagery that, showcases different bodies and different skin tones is because of how much gifting we do. And that really allows us to, like I said, showcase the values of the brand. And in terms of models, I think just coming back to what our foundational ethos is as a brand, we want to make sure that we're always showing imagery that represents different body types. So whenever we do casting, we always make sure that we're casting in multiple sizes. So when a product launches, you can actually see what it could look like on your body, because I'm sure everyone has the experience of going on like a website and only seeing it on a size extra small. And it's really frustrating because you're like, what does this look like on me? Right.
Yeah, exactly. Especially bathing suits too. Like even you said that you're coming out with different sizes and coverage and everything. Like it sucks when you can't even see, sometimes they don't even show the back of it, and you're like, okay, what the heck, what am I going to be getting from this? Like I need to see either the back or what it's going to look like on a different size and all that kind of stuff. So that's so important. I love that you guys do that. So are there any takeaways that you think individuals that are either looking to start a fashion business or already in the process of starting should kind of keep in mind in regards to kind of how you've gone about social media and Instagram and TikTok?
I think now it's different than when we started, but I think my biggest piece of advice now would be to be as transparent as you possibly can with your whole startup process and showcase the entire thing on TikTok. Like every single thing that you do
behind the scenes.
Yeah, record literally the most mundane things that you're doing, because people are interested to see it from like that beginning stages. I don't think that people would be as excited to like see me work on emails for like 8 hours a day, but for a new entrepreneur who's sitting there and getting to do all parts of the business and getting to share their learnings, I feel like there's so much opportunity to grow on TikTok. And because of how like the algorithm works, you can go viral and it can completely change
your life.
business.
Yeah, your business,
yeah,
your life, everything.
People will see it that, on Instagram, you don't really have that opportunity to like put a really amazing video up and then it suddenly go viral and you gain, 100,000 followers overnight. But on TikTok, that's possible. So I would say take advantage of that 100%.
Yep. And you never know what video is gonna really pop off, because sometimes I've heard so many of my friends, and myself including, you try so hard with one TikTok and it gets a couple hundred views, and then you do one in like seconds and it just blows up. And you're like, okay, what was I doing there that I need to change for the next time? But it really is find your niche and just keep taking videos and showing people the behind the scenes, because that's what people want to see. But on top of that, what else it led me into another question. What kind of content and what do you think your audience really wants from you in regards to social media?
Me specifically, or like from
the brand?
A person who's okay. I think behind the scenes is what people want, to be honest. People really like it when they get to learn more about our team, when they get to learn more about the process. People love it when they get to contribute. So
be a part of the process.
Yeah, like be able to, say, this is my favorite style you guys have. I wish you guys had it in a green color or something like that. So that's really what we want to prioritize going forward. We're going to try and do a lot more story takeovers and
I love
interactive posts. Yeah, we did that a while ago. And I think back when we used to have an office, we were doing it all the time because it was so easy for us to do with our team. But because of the pandemic, we've just like been all working remote for the last couple of years.
In different places, different spots. So it's,
I love that you to do.
Yeah, I love that you say that you always say that you're thinking of what your customers want and everything, and you value that. And I know having those loyal customers means so much to brands. How do you or at what kind of state of your process do you keep your customers' well-being and stuff in mind? Because it seems to me like it's the full thing, or is there a special kind of moment that you're like, oh my gosh, we have to really get in touch with them and see where their head's at and all that?
I think it's throughout the process, because to start, a lot of the times when we're making design decisions, we will try and look for like where the gaps are and what has been requested repeatedly that we haven't yet fulfilled. So, even when we're building it like a completely new collection with new styles that no one's seen before, we're trying to think like, okay, which of our customers is this catering to? Because we do have different types of customers, right? There's some girls that love certain colors, some girls like more neutrals, some people like, more coverage or less coverage or whatever it is, more versatility, more simple. So I think we try and design for like specific customer groups. And that way, when we're coming out with different collections, we can kind of make sure that we're touching on all of those different groups.
I love that.
And yeah, so I think that's like the design process is really the opportunity for us and then when the samples come in and we actually get to ask ourselves, like, does this solve that problem? Does this meet, what we want to provide for the customer?
Meet the need and do what you want it to do, essentially. So how do you kind of pick your influencers and models that you've I know we've touched on this, but in what kind of stage in the whole making process, or what part of your team and stuff picks that for you? Because I know that's a huge thing, and working with influencers and now is set, and people of course that have their name out there, and whether it's actors and things like that, what part of your team kind of pick and chooses that for you?
I'd say there's like a couple different things at play here.
Mm-hmm.
So for things like celebrity or kind of bigger press placements, a lot of that stuff is in the past it's been done with a PR agency or um, it's more like if we already have relationships with kind of bigger name people and they want new collections or whatever. And then for more of the content creators, I'd say that's our partnerships manager reaching out. And
Mm-hmm.
we have some kind of internal softwares that we use as well to keep track of all the people that we've worked with.
Mm-hmm.
And, our goal as a company is just to kind of continue to build relationships with people that love the brand, love what we stand for,
Mm-hmm.
love our product. We don't really do influencer gifting or like paid influencer
Mm-hmm.
sponsorship posts because for the most part we just believe that our product speaks for itself.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
yeah, our approach is always just like give and don't expect anything in return. We don't send it out and say like we need all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
We just kind of give and assume that if they love it, then you're going to take a picture in it and hopefully they'll
Mm-hmm.
tag us. Or if they don't tag us, we'll go to the comments and we'll answer any questions from their followers
Yeah.
about where the suit is from.
And you kind of talked about the platform that you have. Does it also tell you which people that you've worked with that it does better with and things like that? Like, do you have a code that they use, or is it really just, kind of people that you want to work with and you leave it to them with them being creative with it? If they love it, they'll share it.
Yeah, I think kind of the latter. I don't think that we give out codes. Full disclosure is I'm more on like the design and
Yeah.
operation side than marketing, but
Okay.
but the program's called Grin, but I'm pretty sure that we don't do any codes for the most
Okay.
part, maybe like one or two, specific people, but for the most part it really is just
Let them speak for
it will
themselves and
yeah, and I
yeah.
think it provides lots of information and
Oh,
so
for
our team can
sure.
kind of make data driven decisions from it.
Yep, absolutely. And so I wanted to ask you about, I know AI, so artificial intelligence is the new big thing on social media, and it's the huge kind of forecasted to be for the future. Do you see your brand kind of getting with that shift and using it, whether it's kind of predicting what your customers are going to want in the future or what materials, fabrics, colors, and things like that? Do you see your brand kind of getting on that AI shift as well, or?
I think so. I think to an extent for sure. Um, I know Hyla, my co-founder, is
Mhm.
always pushing for us to do those kind of things. She's
Yeah.
very interested in like tech
Yeah.
and so yeah, she messaged me today even saying like we should be doing something with NFTs and she's always pushing for us to do that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah.
definitely think it'll come for us. It's more just the timing. Right
Yeah.
now is like our crazy season, so
Mhm.
I feel like we're barely getting the things that we absolutely need to done, let alone like the things that we want to get done.
Yep, especially with your new drop and stuff. I'm sure you're crazy busy because it's doing so well, and I've seen so many people wearing it now too, and it's amazing. So that's great for you guys. So I just wanted to ask you too, what are some of your proudest moments throughout the journey? So whether it's someone you've worked with or when you've kind of gained a huge following, you're like, oh my gosh, took a step back, this is amazing, or what kind of was some of your proudest moments?
I think proudest moments, I think probably when we got our first office was really exciting for us. I think that just validated our whole experience,
Yeah.
especially after, years of literally working out of the basements and all of that sort of stuff. So to have our first office was so super exciting. I think there's certain people who have posted in it who have been exciting for us, like when JLo wore stuff, that was really exciting.
I've also seen the Euphoria,
Yeah,
her
Sydney
wearing it.
Sweeney.
I was like, that's
Yeah.
incredible. So good for you
Yeah,
guys.
no,
Uh-huh.
she wore it on the show lately.
Uh-huh.
I think it was like 2 weeks ago, which was really
Yep.
exciting.
Hmm.
But she actually is, she's reached out to us a few times now and asked for different suits, or we've sent her suits or whatever.
No way. That's
And
amazing.
social media has kind of removed those barriers between people
Oh,
that,
for sure.
are celebrities or we're seeing, online or whatever. And as a brand, you can genuinely just DM them. And a lot of people do check their DMs.
Yeah. And I did see like, I think on my For You page, I had like at one point 5 different pictures of the bathing suit on like just people kind of sharing it and everything. I'm like, this is incredible. Like social media can just kind of pour it to everyone that they like wants to see it. Like that's incredible. I saw it first on the show and then on social media. I think TikTok, Instagram, it hit everything. So that's great for you guys.
Yeah, really exciting.
Yeah, I have one last question. It is if there's any other takeaways that the audience could kind of use, whether it is just on social media, any kind of tips and tricks you have, or regarding entrepreneurship, and lastly, just creating content in general.
I think our approach for 2022 is video first. I feel like it's a little internal mantra that we've been saying over and over again.
I love that.
It's so easy to get caught up in like the visuals of your feed on Instagram, but I think what we're seeing with TikTok and Reels and just the emergence of video being so prioritized in the algorithms, like that's been our biggest key in continuing to grow our socials, is just prioritizing video, producing good video content, and continuing to produce new content all the time, and producing content that we know our customers like and have interacted with a lot. Yeah.
And it is so addicting, like the whole videos of even behind the scenes, like you want to see more, you want to keep going. So if you do have so many of those videos and stuff, it allows people to just keep going and gain so much more knowledge of your brand. So yes. So thank you so much, Adrien, for all your information and perspectives. I hope everyone took something from this episode. And I'm going to finish with the quote I found. You don't have to change your life overnight, but try to add a good thing to each day. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to write any future questions or topics you want to hear, and follow the good, the bad, and the future on Instagram. See you next Sunday to talk about success in the social media industry and the way of self-branding, as well with entrepreneur Ryan Pownell. Thank you so much.